Hello, Mr. Jim. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Of course, you know us. This is my colleague, Chris Wright. I am Chrystian Gonzalez, and you know we're part of One Track Financial Services. So we have the title of our presentation here. I'm sure you're very familiar with your situation, but we're going to go ahead and figure out the best buy-sell agreement for your situation. So I just went ahead and included this information here just so you have it all collected in one place, but I'm sure you're familiar with the information above my head here. We've got you at 67 years old, your wife Patty Brown at 49, your 5 kids, Jim Jr. actually, Simon, Kelly, Sam, and Sarah, and any other relevant people is going to be your former wife, Carla Sturgeon, which we actually don't have to mention too much of, but she is part of the situation here, so we'll go ahead and include her in this. And relevant assets, your company is going to be included in this, the Industrial Molding Incorporated, which is worth right about $10 million. And the shareholders of the corporation are yourself, Mr. Brown, and Carla Sturgeon, your ex-wife. You're at 75% and she's at 25%. So the goals for this meeting are, that you told us that you wanted to accomplish was, first of all, to ensure that IMI continues as a business without any legal issue after you pass. You also wanted to minimize the business contention between your wife, Patty Brown, and your eldest son, Jim Brown, who also works at the corporation. You also wanted this because Patty's contributions and dedication to IMI for nearly 2 decades have been very influential, have been very a key part of the growth of the business. And you want to make sure that she is well cared for in the future, potentially by leaving her half of your current assets. Lastly, you also want to make sure that all of your 5 children are treated fairly and the final distribution of your estate are going to be well taken care of.
Hello, Mr. Brown. Great to see you again. We've had several meetings, and hopefully this will move us further along the process and towards implementation of the buy-sell plan. First of all, I'd like to mention a couple of things before we move into the 2 particular scenarios in which we drafted for you today, and then onwards to the recommendations. Due to your unique situation, being a 75% owner of a closely held corporation, the typical buy-sell plan is not necessarily perfectly constrained to your needs. So because buy-sell plans are unique and you can mold them, essentially they're a contract, we decided that a single purchase buy-sell plan configuration would work best. And this configuration for both scenario 1 and 2 would be that you yourself, Jim, would be the insured. Patty would be the actual policy owner, and then depending on the 2 scenarios, scenario 1 and scenario 2, the beneficiaries would include Patty, Jim Jr., Simon, Kelly, Sam, and Sarah, but a little bit differently, and we're going to go through both of those variations shortly. I also wanted to identify that with the buy-sell agreement, we need to fund this agreement somehow, some way. There's a few different methods, but however, based on your current needs and goals, we decided that a whole life insurance policy would meet these needs the best. Okay, so moving onwards to scenario 1. This is a more strict adherence to the aforementioned goals that you had established in previous meetings, and this would include you providing or having an insurance policy in which would provide Patty with $3.75 million, and this would allow her to purchase 37.5% of the total business shares, which would be half of what you own. And that's what you identified potentially as one of your goals. Then all of the remaining shares, which would be 37.5% of the total business, or half of what you would have left at death, would be distributed equally amongst your children. So ergo, each child would then receive $750,000 to purchase the three to purchase the necessary shares from your estate. And then with Patty owning her shares, and then the children owning theirs, and Carla owning her 25%, that would equal 100%. Scenario 2, however, as we will look at later, we believe is the better scenario. But in this scenario, Patty would retain majority of the shares. So instead of giving her half of what you currently retain, she would actually receive 51% of the total business shares, leaving 24% that would go to your eldest child, Jim Jr., who has aspirations of becoming a CEO. Ergo, the policy, the insurance policy, would have to provide Patty with $5.1 million, which then she could purchase your shares from your estate. And it would also provide $2.4 million to Jim Jr., who could then also purchase the 24% from your estate, which is the remaining of your shares available or outstanding. And then, not to leave out any of the other children, because they have dreams and aspirations of their own, we want to make sure that they receive a monetary benefit. So Simon, Kelly, Sam, and Sarah would receive $1.5 million as a monetary benefit. Therefore, in scenario 2, it would be required that a $13.5 million life insurance benefit be acquired, and in scenario 1, a $7.5 million life insurance policy.
So moving on to the analysis, we're going to go ahead and compare basically the two scenarios and figure out which one is essentially the best. The way we decided to do this is by go ahead and listing basically the pros and cons of each situation, the advantages and the disadvantages of scenario 1, and the advantages and disadvantages of scenario 2. Starting with scenario 1, the advantages are that the division of shares strictly complies with providing Patty half of your current shares, so that it goes strictly with your goal that you wanted to give her half of your shareholder estate, essentially. The remaining shares would also be divided equally among your children. So Patty gets half of your shares, shareholdings, and then your 5 children will get the other half of that. This also provides for the lowest amount of necessary life insurance, and the premiums would be lower than they would in scenario 2. So since we were talking about a smaller life insurance policy in scenario 1, the premiums would obviously be a little bit lower than in scenario 2. The disadvantages, however, for scenario 1 is that if contention between Patty and the remaining stockholders ensued, that being your ex-wife and your oldest son, all of them combined, or a mere majority, could control the business activities of the operation. As a minority shareholder, Patty's influence in the affairs of the business would very likely be diminished, since she would only own about 37.5% of the actual business. Due to the potential change in majority, a directional change may result in both the business's principles, the quality of production, and the overall environment of the business itself. All your children would also have a say in the board meetings, which I know you could potentially see that as a plus, but essentially you have more opinions going, and it would really just take longer to get business done and carry it on the way you have for these last few years. So moving on to scenario 2, the advantages of it are that Patty, as an essential component of IMI, would permanently control the majority. Jim Jr., as an inspired and up-and-coming employee, would retain a substantial portion of IMI and continue his drive to do what is best for the company. So this means that Patty would get actually a larger portion of your shares, but it would be 51% of the entire business. So she would be the majority shareholder, and she would maintain control of the company. All children are compensated with a financial benefit, therefore allowing them to individually follow their dreams and aspirations, whether it be with a family business or otherwise. You also mentioned you were starting another corporation there. They could go ahead and invest in that company when the time comes, and they could continue to move forward, but we maintain the structure of IMI the way you originally wanted it, with Patty in mind. However, we do have, oh, I'm sorry, we still have some more advantages here. The only interested person, Patty and Jim, would be making essential business decisions. Since your ex-wife does have shares, but she's not really involved, as you had mentioned, she really just collects the dividends. The remaining shareholders, which would be Patty and your eldest son, would make the majority of the decisions. Also, due to a higher premiums paid, if the policy is converted or the cash value is utilized, the scenario yields more retained value than in scenario 1. And again, this is strictly because of the larger life insurance that we are dealing with in this situation. Now, moving on to the disadvantages. Due to the highest death benefit, the scenario requires a higher annual premium. So again, the life insurance was substantially larger, so a couple million larger than the one in scenario 1. So that would require that the premiums be a little bit larger. But as you'll see, it might be worth it in the end. One more disadvantage is that the possibility of another of your children wanting a more involved role in the business rather than having a monetary benefit from your life insurance policy would not have the opportunity to do so. Since all the shares are already held by Patty and by your eldest son, and of course by your ex-wife, there wouldn't be much room, the way the situation stands now, to go ahead and incorporate additional shareholders, them being your children, your additional children.
So to wrap everything up, based on the pros and cons in scenario 2, we feel that the advantages vastly outweigh the disadvantages. With this, Patty again retains majority interest within IMI. She has been a significant influence within the company and will likely, more than likely, continue on in the direction in which you would like. Like I said, the disadvantages are fairly minimal with this. There is a little bit higher premium, annual premium. However, again, the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages for scenario 2. And just to wrap up, by utilizing the single purchase buy-sell plan or configuration, in addition to a whole life policy, which is owned by Patty, you can effectively meet all of your goals identified, as well as remove the life insurance benefit from your estate, so no estate taxes will be paid on that, and all of the life insurance benefits passed down to all the beneficiaries income tax free. So we hope that you enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions whatsoever, please do not hesitate to ask. If you need to set up another appointment, we can definitely do that. Thank you so very much for coming in today, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.